Hey everyone, this is Lorne from Otter Valley Railroad. It's been a while since I've done a layout update, so this will be my update for July. As you see, the bench work is here. That's where my helix is going to go in the corner. However, I've got big exciting news for the room. Brand new lighting, as well as controllable dimming. That was installed last week, so pretty excited about that. After we had that done, I started laying more track and working on my Welland Yard. Let's have a look. So right here, this is the ending of the yard going into Welland Canal and going on to the rest of the layout. So it's a double track through here, but the main of the layout is a single track with a lot of double track section features. As you see, I came up with a solution for the top reaching of my ladder. Again, I've still got to lay a little bit of track up in there, but I've got most of it fitted to what I want. Big sweeping curves on my main, so my inside main is right there. All the main line switches are number 8s. I went number 6s for yards and secondary track. So as you see, we've laid out the ladder. Again, we got to physically fix that down, but I'm actually happy with the ladder now because it is a curve. This ladder is curved comparison of the other side. So again, we got some track done yesterday, so we hooked up some power to it, and that was successful and motivating. And one thing I do encourage, as soon as you can run a train, even if it's back and forth, do it. It's one of the best experiences you can have when you're starting a new layout. So this had been done for about 2 months. So this is coming off the main. You can take the top ladder, go into all the yard tracks, or you can stay on the main. I ended up being 18 tracks deep. Someone was asking me, well, how am I going to reach this? So with how my bench work is structured, I'm going to cut open in between the L girders right here. Just enough for a manhole inside there for me. And I'm going to leave the back section as is, and I'm running a track, an industrial track, to eventually put a chemical plant that's down in Port Maitland over in my corner. And how I'm going to do this scene is, if you're familiar with the CP Welland Yard, there is a giant burr hill on the west end of the yard on Lambert Road. And so I'm going to make the manhole and make it into a burr similar to either do it with chicken wire or paper mash, so I can lift it up, but it's actually going to be a burr. So it's going to be a lift out section, so that way I can access the throat of this entire yard. The back's just going to be sceneried either in a form of cloth or painting. My wife's cousin's husband has the art gallery, so he has been contracted to do my painting. So he's going to either do a combination of painting, cloth, or digital vinyl. We haven't settled on that. I first got to see what his availability will be for the winter, but I suspect he'll have some availability. We've only have one drop feed in, which is down there at where the ESU system is. Outside of that, that's pretty much it. The eventual goal in the next 10 days is to finish laying this yard. The big project's going to be making the transition from dropping right down there, down 2%, all the way around due to the wrapping of the canal. That's probably going to be the August project. And once we're done laying track, we're going to be putting in the divider over here once we're done laying track in the Welland Yard. So the divider is going to be MDF drilled into the benchwork and then re-supported off of the I'm going to have clips on top of my drop ceiling. So again, sorry about the updates. I haven't had too many, but I now have lighting in this room. I'd never had lighting in this room before. We did the entire benchwork literally with lamps, lights on your head, like coal miners' lights, and a couple of stand-up lights, and we just did it. But now I got some lights. Now, everyone keeps asking me, how are you going to pull this canal, not the canal, but the Fort Erie Bridge off? I don't know. I've got 18 feet of bridge purchased, and I've got enough bridge track to last me a lifetime. With Shinahara now being up in the air, I had an opportunity to buy a large swath of bridge track before it disappeared. So I took advantage and I bought a large swath of it, and now I got it hidden away. This whole scene right here of the open girder, that's going to be the Fort Erie International Bridge. It's going to be touchy because the bridges are not inexpensive, and it's my first time doing a bridge scene of this length. I've done two 200-foot bridges before. Now I'm going to do 1,600 scale feeder bridges, so I've got to take it a little bit slower, as well as how I'm going to incorporate drop feeds. Either I'm going to go, each bridge has its own drop feed, or I'm going to go where it connects at each point, and maybe use power routers through the Pico power router, and just go that way and just say screw it and connect rail to rail, rather than trying to make an incision point and make a solder point on a high-end brass bridge. There was an interesting discussion a couple days ago regarding bridge track spacing. I am interested to know if the Fort Erie International Bridge spacing is the traditional American style. I would think it is, because that bridge was originally constructed for the Michigan Central, so I would assume it would have followed US standards, not Canadian standards. However, the bridge is now controlled and maintained by Canadian National and used by Canadian Pacific and Norfolk and Southern. So I don't know if that would have been converted over in one of the rebuilds, or they kept the same spacing. That I don't know. I'm really fascinated to know on that. There's not much else to note in the room. Couple recent additions. I picked up an SD70 ACE and CEFX. My GMD1, which was a Welland unit, as well as a Rapido SW1200RS. 1350 was a St. Thomas based unit. However, it did spend some time in Welland. One of the things that 1350 is famous for is being part of the CN Power that delivered Reading 2100 from the CN St. Thomas Yard to the Elgin County Railroad Museum. How I knew that is I stumbled upon a video about 3 or 4 weeks back, and it was the third loco in the CN consist with 2 Jeep 9s. So I thought, yep, I want to have that. And I also remember a bunch of times as a kid going to school at Summers Corners, we were about half a mile away from the Cayuga sub, and every Tuesday and Thursday between 1 and 2, the little switcher would blow the horn at the crossing there at Summers Corners Road and Springfield Road, and go to Tillsonburg and Cortland to do the work. And that was always powered by a switcher, because I remember one day going up to London and we had to stop for the switcher, and it was an SW1200. And I'm almost positive that 1350 was the common power to go to Tillsonburg and Cortland. I've yet to see pictures, but it was a common unit kicking around Ford, kicking around the CN St. Thomas Yard. So I suspect that was the one that went east to service Tillsonburg and Cortland and Delhi. As well as picked up another GMD1. You can't have enough of them. They're quite mainstays if you're doing modern CN in southern Ontario. Units were seen as far as Windsor, Sarnia. Most of them are in Sarnia right now. London, St. Thomas, St. Thomas at the Ford plant. Woodstock has had them occasionally on transfer service. The CN Ford plant, or the CN plant on the Ford track in Oakville. The units have been in Welland before doing the former Dane City, which is now the chemical plant. So 1437 was a chemical plant unit, and I also have 1444, which again, on the NiagaraRails.com website has pictures of 1444 servicing the biofuel plant in Welland. So again, I try to get numbers that have either went through or units that have went through the area that I'm modeling. Not particular on the exact road number, but if I can get the exact number of a picture, then I usually go about my procurement that way. So yeah, my track plan worked out pretty well to a T. So if anyone's using any rail track, it'd be a track plan I would recommend. This isn't an easy yard. It's 5.5 feet deep. It's 17 tracks wide. As you notice, I've got some weird spacing in there. If you ever look at the aerial view of the CP Welland Yard, there's a lot of funky spacing. The three main tracks here, track 1, track 2, and track 3, right here, my hand is. This is the main in real life. This was track 2, and this was the controlled siding. This down here is actually the former Canada Southern main line that now is converted into a controlled siding. Usually they'll store auto racks for Cami, for Cambridge, and for Woodstock Toyota, or they will store auto container cars that are either in between service or in storage. And it's a controlled siding. So it's not as often as they do pickups and lift, but if you look at some of the aerial plans, which I'll provide to you in a later video, the spacing is really wider in spots, and then the 3 tracks here, it's narrower. One other thing to notice is, you'll notice I have a dead end track. So that was a dead end track that was created from the TH&B. It still exists today. They occasionally will store power there, or they'll store a car to get serviced on. And then in between the track, while there's no more track, they actually had a culvert, and they had a large deep ditch for drainage of the yard. So I'm going to actually do a simulated culvert and a simulated ditch through this whole running. And then the other stuff is spaced because they would have a servicing track, so they'd have it wide enough that you get a truck through the tracks on each side. So that's why it explains some of the yard tracks are a bit spaced out more. When I lay the CN Fort Erie yard, it'll be more the typical 2 to 2.5 inch center rail to center rail, center tie to center tie spacing. But the Welland Yard's kind of a freak because it's kind of a hodgepodge yard that was created after the relocation of the Canada Southern main line out of the canal, and they moved it down to the Welland Canal tunnel line trough project. So that's actually a new yard that was built. It's not a repurposed TH&B or a Canada Southern Michigan Central yard. It's actually a rebuilt TH&B Penn Central Canadian Pacific yard. That's why you'll notice if you ever go visit it, it's quite modern. It's not as old, and it's more of a current standard yard. So that basically explains the big yard here. There hasn't been much else that I've worked on, but I was happy yesterday. My 14-month-old Isabel, and we'll have her on a video coming up, when she got to see the trains running for the first time on Dada's layout. She got pretty happy and calm, and she's excited. So I'm actually quite happy that my daughter is interested in trains at a young age, and you know, I've always been in trains since I was a young lad, so it's nice to see she's interested in it, not just watching YouTube with me, but also, you know, likes the models, likes the sound. You know, I was amazed yesterday when she was just watching the train going back and forth at how patient she was sitting, and you know, I was like, this is fantastic. So, because I want this to be, you know, I want her to be involved in this with me, and if my wife and I have any more children, that, you know, it's kind of a family kind of layout, but at the same time it's kind of a theme-based layout too. That's it for the update. I hope to do another update in about 2 to 3 weeks. Please leave your comments below on the video. I'd love to hear the feedback. If there's anybody who would like a follow-up video or they have any follow-up questions, please let me know and maybe I'll do a follow-up video. Anyway, you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.